Record 43, Side 1, Lesson number 43, the 43rd lesson, Practical section, British Universities. When we speak of Britain's universities, it seems natural for the foreigner to think immediately of Oxford and Cambridge. These are the oldest universities in the country, with a history going back to 1249 in the case of Oxford and 1289 for Cambridge, the former today having 22 colleges and the latter 18. There are, in fact, 23 universities in the United Kingdom, 17 in England, 4 in Scotland, the University of Wales, and Queen's University, Belfast, in Northern Ireland. There are plans for the establishment of other universities in England, yet even when ready, it is not certain that the places available will be sufficient to meet present-day needs. Just a year ago, there were 109,000 full-time students in the universities of the United Kingdom, a figure which is double that of the pre-war period. The largest of Britain's universities is, of course, London, composed, like many others, of groups of colleges, each of which is largely autonomous. There is no jurisdiction over universities by the education departments, their relationship being limited to the training of school teachers and the award of scholarships from public funds. The main source of income is directly from state assistance, this amounting to over 70% of the total. Local authorities contribute a small percentage, and fees paid by students amount to only 10% of the annual total. The student enters university usually by examination. There is no bar of any kind, whether of race or religion, nor is there any limitation on the female sex, save at Cambridge, where, as was the case at Oxford too until 1957, their numbers are limited by statute. The overall proportion of men to women university students is about 3 to 1, but at Oxford the proportion is 6 to 1, and at Cambridge 10 to 1. The number of undergraduates is limited, but it is hoped that present planning may, when it has become fact, meet the total needs for university education. However, it seems unlikely that this will ever happen, for, with a continually rising standard of living, a higher school-leaving age, and ever better qualifications required by industry, commerce and the professions, more and more young people will be attracted to the university in order to prepare themselves adequately for their vocation. Whether a student has means or not, university life and the possibility of a degree are open to him or her. Grants and scholarships are available to every student with the ability to profit from a course of study at the university. Today, even Oxford and Cambridge, at one time the universities of the wealthy, are open to everyone who has the ability to gain a place. About 80% of the present university student population in the UK receive aid from either public or private sources. That is national policy. Courses in arts and science are available in all universities and, in the majority, there are also courses in one or more of the applied sciences. A course normally lasts 3 or 4 years, but in some, medicine for example, it may be as long as 5 or 6. In the majority of British universities, the courses consist of lectures, but at Oxford and Cambridge, and the idea is spreading today, the tutorial system is adopted. The student is placed under the guidance of a tutor, who is a specialist in the subject to be studied. The tutor gives the student advice regarding his studies, and will also require written work. The great advantage of the tutorial system is the closeness of collaboration between tutor and student, which gives greater opportunities of advancement to the young person who really wishes to get ahead. Let us return again to Oxford and Cambridge, which were the first 2 universities in the United Kingdom to be based on the residential system. Durham and others also have residential colleges. The student going to Oxford or Cambridge must first enter one of the colleges before he can become a member of the university. In college he has 2 rooms, a sitting room or study and a bedroom, and he receives attention from men servants called scouts at Oxford and gyps at Cambridge. Undergraduates entertain one another in their rooms, taking tea and discussing all manner of subjects. Their study, their sporting activities, their leisure are all bound together from the day they join the university until they take their final degree. The best athletes may win their blues, the privilege of wearing the university colours, pale blue for Cambridge, dark blue for Oxford, while in other fields there are activities of a high intellectual level, in university debating societies and dramatic clubs, in which interested students may take an active part.
Side 2, Grammatical section. Inversion of subject and verb. In the first lessons of our course, we studied the interrogative form of all verbs, whether auxiliary, defective, or principal. In this lesson, we shall take note of a construction which requires the same form, but is not interrogative. In fact, if we begin a sentence, clause, or phrase with a negative or restrictive adverb or adverbial phrase, then the verb it restricts must be used as if it were interrogative. A few examples will serve to make this construction quite clear. I have never done such a horrible thing in my life. The above sentence is perfectly normal and is simply negative. Should it be necessary, however, to be more emphatic, the word never will be placed at the beginning, and, as we have said, the interrogative form of the verb used, as follows. Never have I done such a horrible thing in my life, or never in my life have I done such a horrible thing. Other examples of this construction may be formed with words and expressions such as only then, not only, in no circumstances, nowhere, scarcely, rarely, seldom, only, not even once. They arrived home at midnight in a blinding snowstorm, and only then did I feel my nervousness disappear. Seldom have I heard such rubbish. Not even once was I fortunate enough to get a seat for the great conductor's concerts. Only by paying 2 or 3 times the price will you be successful in obtaining a ticket now. At no time has it been so difficult to get through large cities by car than it is today. Tag questions. In Lesson 18, we discussed this point briefly. Now we shall quickly remind you of the construction and give a number of examples. You must, of course, have noticed this form many times in the conversations. When we ask a question to which we want an affirmative or negative answer, we use a simple interrogative form. Have you a pencil, John? I don't know whether or not John has a pencil. If I think that he really has a pencil, and I wish to be sure, I shall put my question in a different way. I shall say, "You have a pencil, John, haven't you?" On the contrary, if I think John hasn't a pencil, I shall say, "You haven't a pencil, John, have you?" If you study these 3 examples carefully, you will notice that in the second and third, the first part of the question is not an interrogative at all. The interrogation is found at the end. Note that carefully, for in this type of confirmatory question, the interrogative is always at the end. The tag, as it is called, is formed by repeating the auxiliary or defective verb employed in the first part of the question, along with the correct pronoun subject. Where there is no auxiliary or defective verb in the first part, the auxiliary to do is employed to form the tag. The auxiliary of the tag is employed in the same tense as that of the first part. When the speaker expects a positive answer, he will make the first verb positive. The second is always the opposite of the first. And when he wishes confirmation of a negative idea, he will use a negative verb in the first part of his question. Positive replies expected. You are late, aren't you? Mary took my book, didn't she? There's time for another cup of tea, isn't there? The children's friends broke some glasses, didn't they? Negative replies expected. That wasn't your friend Joe at the door, was it? He didn't read a single page of that book you lent him, did he? At that price, these records can't be selling at a profit, can they? Agreements. In Lesson 18, we saw that so plus auxiliary plus subject was used to avoid repetition of a verb when the same concept was repeated. I have a book and Mary has a book too is more commonly expressed as I have a book and so has Mary. The negative agreement is expressed by using neither or nor plus auxiliary plus subject. John isn't very clever at school. Mary isn't very clever at school either. These two sentences are much better expressed as John isn't very clever at school, and neither is Mary. In this way, then, we use so plus auxiliary plus subject, and neither or nor plus auxiliary plus subject when there are two expressions in agreement. In the first case, both positive, and in the second, both negative. Here are one or two more examples. The children haven't eaten their ice cream, and neither have I. Instead of playing football all afternoon, you should have studied, and so should your friends.